So we understand explosion and we understand implosion, yes? Which is kind of way to think about black hole is what happens if you could vacuum in a single point more than the universe stacked up in its natural vacuum. Could you imagine vacuuming a vacuum?
No. How do you vacuum?
That's a very interesting thing, isn't it? Yeah, fascinating, because your belief system is that space is the most vacuumated that it can be, yes? It can't vacuum any more than that because it is a vacuum, yes? But is there a force beyond a vacuum? And going the opposite to a vacuum, there are always two ways to go, right? Yes?
Yeah.
So if you could exceed the force, the capable pressure that would be needed
Yeah.
to create an instability, you'd look to the neutrino, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And that essentially is, and it gets stuck in this mode, and then there you are. What type of force do you need for that? And then we understand what type of force do you need for an explosion. Well, what's the biggest star you've ever seen explode? None. Maybe you've seen some generated, I don't know.
I haven't.
What about some of those really big stars, seeing those pop in real time? I mean, that's incredible, right? So that's explosion, implosion. Now, if I take a stone and I throw it into a river, it creates a ripple, yes? Now, if I take those same level of stones and I throw them strategically one after the other,
Yeah.
I can create a large wave with this, yes?
Yeah.
Massive wave, in fact.
Yeah.
Now, kind of neutral, but it's still causing an explosion into the water, depending on which way you look at it, which is the one that's exploded. Usually we're looking at weather. Weather is basically a less denser version of liquid, and there are many different isotopes of liquid as to how hard it is. So we understand a tidal wave. Something happened that triggers a tidal wave, yes?
Yeah.
Now, I can amplify that, couldn't I? Strategically, I could put in a load of bombs that could detonate
Yeah.
while the wave is just reaching its, and then detonate it, which could move more water. Could do it behind it, would probably be better to push more volume into it. Anyway, let's say you can amplify a wave. But if I used implosions, could I diminish it?
Probably.
Explosion, implosion, strategically. And then it'll make me look at weather a little bit more. Could you knock them off?
Yeah.
By countering which one of these between the layer of, before you have vacuum and pressure, there's the in-between stage, isn't there? A neutral. A sort of skin, if you like. A veil. You sort of, these two forces seem to know one from the other and seem to have a mutual respect for one another, but one tries to dominate each other either or.
Yeah.
Black holes implode. Now, this got me thinking to something else. What happens if you take a submarine? Because I was pissing around with the submarine concepts the other day. So, when it goes deeper, isn't the art that the thing will begin to crush?
Yeah.
And then you would need X amount of air chambers in order to put more air in. So the submarine goes down with X amount of air chambers in it. So therefore, it can only get to a certain depth before there's no more mass or solids turned into gases.
Yeah.
And it reaches a limit. It goes beyond that. It can't inject any more air in unless it was generating air from outside. Which you might think electrolysis or something, maybe. But again, how fast is that process? Therefore, would alter whether the submarine could get deeper, because the deeper it goes, the ocean is pushing more, so it needs an atmosphere inside it to push out more. Now, I ask another question. What happens in my little imagination, yes?
Yeah.
As this thing is going down, there is another supply deck that is connected to bring air and pump more in so that it can go deeper until the hull starts bowing. And it's at maximum capacity. They have no more air they can inject into there. Another one sides it, and it gives it air. But again, it's going to need 2 times the air to even reach before you get a depth. Now, I was sitting there thinking about this whole process, right? And also, if you let's say, oxidize it,
Yeah.
you have to change the gases at different pressures, and it's too much, then there's an instability and it will cause it to explode in the water, which in many simulations of thinking about this, one popped after the other. Just wanted to see it, and it created a wave. And then it made me realize something, that what happens if we could suck the volume out of the submarine? Essentially make a vacuum. And the stronger the vacuum got, the more deeper it got. Well, there you've got a forced pushing and one pulling on the inside, which would be a very interesting onion layer, which then gets me thinking about to be able to have a craft that's neutral enough to go inside the layers of a star, which wouldn't be layers, perhaps spirals. In fryer lines, in cooking, food processing, you know, they put the meat, they pre-cook some of it, and it goes on spirals. And that's then heated, and then it's on a spiral on the reverse of cooling it down. You could think of a black hole like one, pulling in and pulling things apart, spiral, tornado, probably better. Yeah, and stars, interestingly. The opposite way. So, but still, same fundamental to reach a point before they push out, and these ones reach a point before they really begin to pull in. Fascinating. And one is defusing, pulling apart. The bit that gets me curious is, who the hell gave both of you that information of how to do this?
Yeah.
You clearly are blind to one another. One doesn't see one particular part and the other doesn't live on to see that particular part neither. And then there's a stage where none of them see anything, which is a neutral stage. And yet they know how to function. So who, if anyone, gave them that? And then that makes you start looking higher than the biome, right? Because it leads you to the end of the sort of journey, you know? So then who, and if it's who, then what and how does that look like? Becomes an even bigger possibility than before. Yeah, interesting. So taking these submarines, now what happens if you were able to make a hull that was strong enough to be able to create an equal vacuum level to submersion? So the ocean pushing down on it, and the logical thing would be to pump in more gas to mimic an atmosphere, yes?
Yeah.
Going down meaning it could take more pressure. But then the air or the gas inside it would begin to respond differently, perhaps start liquid in itself, but compressing perhaps. Who knows? You can only compress it so much, which would then require it to get stronger the more deeper it gets. But what happens if you flip that and then decided to start sucking the air out of it? And then what happens if you overdo that? You've concentrated nothing. But there is most certainly something. And at depth. You see, on the atmosphere, that's going to suck air in, isn't it? Implosion pulls, explosion push.
Yeah.
So in one aspect, if a bomb explodes in a certain area and you have a exploding bomb, an imploding bomb, that could pull the energy from it, which would then cancel it out, right? Yes, in logical sense, yeah. So if it's like that with, let's say we assume an explosion in this way, and as soon as that drops, and you level the deck with something that is capable of absorbing ×2 that, that would be an explosion followed by an implosion, which would strategically should cancel it out.
Yeah.
Minimizing its reach or its damage. Strategically plant these around the object that's falling, and it should be enough to not even create a ripple. Now, assuming that the weather works in the same way, could you turn off things like this?
Maybe you could. Yeah.
You can also amplify it into extremities, though.
Yeah.
Detonate it too late, and perhaps you'll push and pull. I don't know. Who knows? The right ratio.
Yeah. You have to find the right moment.
So one defuses, takes solid objects and defuses them. And the other one defuses them back to gas. That's a black hole. And then a star takes gas and fuses it into X amount. How far does that go? To a point when we see the emergence of black holes, that then starts running. There's a cycle changing. Factor in that. Stars were fast in the beginning, but they left a lot of junk lying around. Too much junk, which means mass. They converted a lot of that and didn't use it.
Yeah.
So therefore, the mass of the stars, but now we have an additional of planets, not just planets. We've also got moons, not just moons, but dwarf planets, not just dwarf planets, but also Kuiper Belt. And now we've got nebula. This stuff is very heavy, especially from the gas. It's more denser. This becomes so heavy, in fact, that it begins to exacerbate the very things that are creating all of this junk, which then begin to influence the star in such a way that then begins to create an emergence of black holes. Difference is, some of these things, once they get going, they have potential to outlive stars. Therefore, their timing, they just have to wait. And they're merging, learning, bringing all of these ingredients together while spiraling it. Now, there would be a reverse. So we understand that stars build a periodic table this way. Under X amount of time, under X amount of pressure, under X amount of size, under X amount of this. Take one black hole, this size, this size, this size, this size, versus the star of all categoried in the universe. These types of stars versus these black holes. This one with this type of information. And you can run away with that, plus the weight. The stars were fast in the beginning. These are even more surpassing it. These are like the hair in this version. They get sloppy, take a rest. And the tortoise being the black hole. These things begin to accumulate slowly but surely. And as a result of that, what they make up for in size is their destruction, and being able to defuse is a fascinating. So for every piece of planetary object that goes into a black hole, is separated, and it causes the black hole to get bigger and bigger. So yeah, right, I'm probably going to leave this one here because you're probably crunching quite loud there, so that probably sounds like a lot of... No, you're right. So yeah, so the more debris that come in, the denser objects that come into the black hole, given the same amount of time reverse with the same amount of mass type of black hole that it is, different variations of them, determined on what they've worked out before, you should be able to get it so that you get a mass of objects. So if it's going to be going backwards in stages, never mind tapping into a star, and imagine being able to tap into a star and put a pipe into a star, assuming that you could make something like this and be able to bleed it for the certain types of resources that you need. You know, they cluster around this particular area. So if I take the black hole and the star, and I put many of these, what was humanity, yes? We all take a load of stars, small scale stars that are capable of fusing, and a load of black holes of different sorts and sizes. And these ones are going to defuse all of the stuff that we need. If you look at the periodic table and you see where carbon and oxygen are, you'll notice a very bizarre pattern. But then utilizing this to create a large amount of oxygen, sure, once you've burnt that out, a lot of dust and debris are going to come from that particular star, swallowed by the black hole. Now imagine if you could tap into the black hole, that when it reaches a certain type of defusing point, that stuff would have converted back into what you needed it to convert into. In reverse faction of what the star is doing one way, the black hole is doing an opposite direction. A little bit more faster and a little bit more advanced. You would expect it to, because it's almost weird, isn't it? One creates the other. But the capability always seems to be more intelligent the second time round. And then the second time round would be the star creation from the black hole standpoint, from the gas transition. And again, more intelligent because it's second time round. That is fascinating. almost seems to gain information, lose information, forget information, reutilize information. That's a loop on loop. But being able to defuse is fundamentally important. Now factor this into creating objects. So if you were to strip most things down, you would search for gases because it would be easier. Take the gases, you have a large amount of gases, but the outcome of solid materials is very small. Because you need a lot of gases to make a small, hardened, compressed piece of information, such as iron. That's a lot gone into it.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure. So again, do you already take iron and find a way to then defuse that? It's quite difficult to do so, right? But then if you learn black hole, do you want to take that all the way back to, let's say, hydrogen? The answer would be no, because you would then have to take it from the hydrogen, and then you would have to form a star given X amount of time, even if it's on small scale, to get the resource that you want. That would take too long. So you bring it back down as far as you need it, and then siphon into it. And then how many have to go through that point and make it back to that point? Especially if it was going in reverse, let's assume, and it was going in reverse and it's hitting the oxygen scale in reverse, and then it will go backwards in the periodic table, the same way it was created. And you tap into it right there. That's fascinating, isn't it? You can get a self-fulfilling prophecy with this already, especially if you can make it so that it builds up. Utilize it yourself, and that goes thrown into the waste before it hits back. It will always convert this back into breathable gases. We got a strange structure in our skin, that when we look at it, we've got nothingness surrounded by something, or something surrounded by nothingness. Have you noticed that pattern in atomics? It almost seems to be one way or the other way, yes? Now, when we look at those nothings and somethings, something else remarkably strikes you. You could look at those as black and white. Why would you look at that as black and white? Black hole and star. Now, the formation. Do I actually see that naturally occurring in the universe? No. But yet, yes, because it's naturally occurring on you. Now, I'd ask a question about this particular pattern in our structure. What happens if we were to make black holes orbit a star in the same pattern? What changes? And what happens if we make then a load of stars orbit a black hole in this particular fashion? What is the outcome? And what happens if you have a cluster of these going together? Is there a difference? Once again, this would be a very fascinating experiment, but it would make you ask a very big question. If you could shrink stars down, which you can, again, that's a fascinating thing. If you're very big and you shrink these down to being very small and it all goes wrong, you're fully protected. If you can upscale, downscale, perfect it large, then you understand it as small. And therefore you create an abundance, quite a lot. An illusion, but still. So winter during the universal sleep, where everything seems to be shutting down, and maybe you're on the verge of doing things, you would shrink your size. Well, you think you would, and then it expands your abundance. And then as it begins to loop round into another cycle, you might then begin to expand again. So do you think life forms get smaller and larger? Yeah, that would be a fascinating thing. Implosion, explosion, and the neutral line in between.
Yeah.
And again, this is wonderful medicine for gases as well, because you can remove all of these. Sure, maybe you might not be able to with the carbon monoxide and different things like that. I think a black hole would pull those apart, and at the very least mimic it. So yeah, what happens if under the ocean you had a submarine that you are, removing every piece that you can whilst the ocean is pushing down on it? I mean, that would be a fascinating thing. And if there are, let's say, food debris inside the submarine, once you've depressurized it, sure, this stuff may expand, and it's got liquids inside it. Aren't these going to start releasing, which then add more pressure back into the structure? Isn't that how it works? So if you can defuse an object.
Yeah.
It's like the reverse of a balloon, but it's hard to imagine because it's hard to visualize. So every time you blow into this balloon, it is removing rather than adding. Inflating in the same way, but in the reversal that it's pulling everything apart. Now imagine if you were to put a piece of fruit inside there, you'd be able to blow it up to maximum capacity, tie it up and leave it. And eventually the balloon in this case would start shrinking because the object inside would then start separating and I believe it works more so with ice. So again, if you have a ice block inside it, and it was cold enough and you defused it, it's going to give you a reading that it's defused at, I don't know, 0.5 on a scale, yes? But you want it to maintain 0.5. If it was just an empty environment with no liquids, no ice, nothing else, it will contain and maintain 0.5. However, if there is some ice inside there and conditions improve, it will move from 0.5 and it will begin to add pressure. So 4, 3, 2, and maybe 1. Based off of that object with liquids, and especially if in a vacuum environment they can't stay together, so they convert into gas, they might be able to maintain whilst they're in a solid state and it's cold. Then you start to add the heat, the ice begins to melt. Melting then assumes that it will then begin to separate into a gas. Liquids can't remain in a vacuum, they have to separate because the bonds that hold them together only come in pressure. Out of pressure, liquids turn into gas. However, shooting stars seem to hold liquids, but how do they hold liquid? Well, because it's an ice ratio, therefore it stays in a cold environment, sort of tricks the darkness, if you like, the vacuum, because it is a liquid, but it's remaining in a certain type of suspended animation. When it comes closer to the sun or star, it then starts to heat up. As it heats up, ice has been instructed that you can't remain ice. In this particular state, you're now heating up, so therefore it's going to begin to melt. As it melts, before it even does melt, then its extreme is a vacuum. It's going to start separating that into a gas, and then we have comet tail is formed. And not all of them have comet tails, only some of them. And in certain circumstances, if they nip your atmosphere, they don't hit the land or anything, they just whip through your, I don't know, upper layers. You know, in and out job. You know, in those conditions, if there's anything else in it, it begins to essentially smoke because it gets getting very hot. So it creates a new type of vapor trail off of it, which, again, we could understand that those heats then make metals into a liquid. And again, they're probably more ready and easier to separate as a liquid than they are as a solid. It's a very fascinating thing. Explosion, implosion. At the right time, at the right ratio. If you could cool down a star really fast, would it explode? Because it's no longer liquid, it's a solid. So would the star, if you were to freeze the metal on there just before it's reaching its... Do you think it would just fizzle out? Do you think that would be a controlled explosion? And what would be the best ability to do that? Why would you do that? Could you imagine making something that made the star snuff out? You're going to fill it with like a cooling liquid in its activity mode. You find a way to get inside it, and then you freeze it. It turns off the heat, and it doesn't explode in the process. As a result of that, you are left with a humongous fossil, which is a star, never naturally formed. But with life forms, you could naturally create something like this. Fossilize a star. Now that would be an interesting sort of process to even understand, to comprehend. And it stays as its structure, which then means cleanup is a little bit more challenging. However, it means that you hold on to the bulk of all of what it is. Then you could shape this into something. The mass would be pretty big. What could you build that into? What could you mine from it? Perhaps you not directly. No. And then again, strategically knock chunks off of it. A bit like the old flint knappers, right? Utilizing certain tools to carve out the flint, which probably seems like a daunting prospect to anyone that wanted to get into making decent bow and arrows and stuff. But inevitably, all of that stuff has led to now. By doing all of that, leads. Always with a purpose, a pattern. Yeah, which... this pattern seems to be applied everywhere else. The behavior is different. So yeah, implosion, explosion, and if you had ice in there, it would then begin to start peaking in pressure. And then when we get to 0, we then start climbing into 1, 2 lots of pressure, 2 times the atmosphere. One more I'm going to leave you with, making diamonds. So they try and make diamonds, yeah? But apparently they're not quite the same, yes? And they're a little bit more brittle. Am I right in saying that you've created an isotope of a diamond
Yeah, isotope of
Mineral.
yeah, yeah,
But even still, that's an isotope.
carbon. Yeah.
And then there are many different variations to create that. Now, that would ask me a question. If that's the beneath scale, what's the above? What happens if you keep going with that process? You know, again, atmospheres seem to mix a lot of mineral content. Life forms seem to mix an awful lot of stuff just in existing. We're mixing all of this stuff together.
Yeah.
And whether we make it or we don't, we've altered the Earth. It's got substances that the rest of the planet doesn't have. Now, whether that works to make it into a better star or not, when it comes its time, if it gets it, it has something very unique that has been mixed up. And even if we were to all go extinct, all of the weird and wonderful stuff that we've cooked up has not happened on many planets around. So therefore, it becomes quite an interesting sort of experiment after all, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What sort of life occurs then? What is it going to cook up and spit out? See, we often look at diamonds as being made from what? Carbon? But are we sure it's not compressed carbon, which we would then understand as tree bark? Living life form. Does it create the more purer of the diamond rather than opposed to utilizing gas? Gas is one way to create a particular mineral. Yes, don't get me wrong, but what about the variable of life? And if it is all a fluke and all the rest of it, then would it make a more pure mineral content? Which there again opens up a database to something, doesn't it? What are we really leaving behind? And if that is making something very strong in a mineral content, then just by existing as nature has, it's made a very hardened diamond possible. And anything that the universe could make up from the carbon gases, minus life's ingredient into it, would be the failed version. And therefore, life itself has changed the composition of this particular area, assuming the diamonds are made this way.
Yeah.
Different life forms must cook up different crystals, different chalks. Yes, it's chalk similarly to, yes, X, Y, Z. Okay, but there must be a sort of difference between this iron in your blood versus the iron that operates in that nail. This one's this one's that, this one. There is already a difference to it. Does it last very long? Who knows? How come you're draining all of that? These lids need nails to hold them down. I can take the, couple of these doornails from the blood.
Yeah.
Okay, Professor. You don't mind holding this for me? Didn't think so. Well, if it comes from the iron of your blood to make the nails to hold the lid shut, I mean... That is symbolic for the life. Sorry. Ooh, that was a little morbidly funny, but also tickling. And yeah, so different isotopes and what they could do, and how you could live in an environment. But yeah, my fascinating one for me personally is turning off a star so that it fossilizes, shutting down its mechanism so that it doesn't explode. Would it tell you more information about a star than loads of fragments that pop in a... And do you think there would be a before and after? Is there data missing in the explosion? Stuff that wipes itself completely back out?
Oh no.
You see, these are possibilities, and then you have a before and you have now an after, an or.
Right.
And what you didn't know, by assuming that the universe and the stars explode, that the outcome that's coming out is all of the picture.
Yeah.
And in fact, maybe that during that explosion, it altered things to cancel them back out that were found in the remnants just before. Just by making a fossil. Pretty fucking morbid though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think so? Just running away with the Egyptians, they would mummifying things, yeah? They would be mummifying stars.
Yeah.
And it would feel very a beautiful thing, wouldn't it? Very godlike, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
To be able to make life exist on one particular planet, just at a command, and to snuff it out on another. That's interesting. Some of it comes up naturally, some of it a little bit influenced.
Mm.
Oh yeah. And then I get you thinking with this, with a black hole, could you mummify it, suspend it,
Mm.
turn it into a statue? That's what you would be doing, wouldn't it? That would be rather symbolic, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Could you imagine if they applied all of their wisdom as ancient Egyptians, and imagine if they could do this with stars? Never mind whether it could, is possible. Just bring that programming back and apply it to some future versions. I mean, what do you reckon the stars would look like if they could mummify stars in terms of temples? Because that would be their thing, wouldn't it? That would be fucking interesting, wouldn't it? And then some others go off in this direction. And then do this, and this with theirs, and the Mayans do this. Could you imagine looking at all of that played out? Whatever this force is, it's hilarious, it's funny, it's offensive, it's two-faced. Yeah, it's so contradictory, isn't it? Like, sort of give it, but sort of not, but do, but it's all right. Which I am. You can, but you can't. But you're not allowed, but you could. If you wanted to, I'm not going to stop you, but I will stop you, but I might not. Anything else? Yes, no, maybe, sort of. See you next week. Tomorrow, okay? Now that would be an opportunity, wouldn't it? That would be a weird opportunity.
Yeah.
But imagine all of these life forms rising up throughout the biomes, and they will all have their unique sort of artistry and their behavior and the way they interpret the behavior of reality. You can see it like this, and you can clamp down into it and operate like this. For long periods of time, that anchoring down, weathering the storm, so to speak. Yeah. But yeah, from recycling and everything else, I don't know, look to the stars when they support you really well. And nature. That's eternity. Everything's all about the timing though, right? Once you've made an engine like that,
Mm-hmm.
and then being able to, first is coming from the engine, popping from one to the other. Small scale, short, but, you know,
Mm-hmm.
goes from one to the other, and it's good enough because you can tap into that. Could you imagine what the future would do with that capability? Never mind whether it's true. They already have it, so they know that it's true in this particular thing. They won't leave it. No. They want to move the furniture, but they want to fucking reposition stars. They'll look at that and think, can we tap into it like this, and maybe a bit more like this, and this goes in here, and we hack into it about there. Can we keep these burning for eternity in this aspect? And what happens if we add some smaller ones? These ones are going to burn out here. These ones are... Oh, look at that. We've got this going in and that going out. All right, is it self-fulfilling? No, not yet. Shit. Okay, right, go again. The unions. This is probably what they'll be called or something. The modern-day Edisons. We got 1,000 ways not to simulate this shit. But we got one. Just one. And people were like, just tell me the one. Oh, tell it how reality said it. Well, how was that? Step 1, failure. Step 2, more failure. After about step 1,000, you get the point. Yeah, fascinating. Now that tells you a hell of a fucking story, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We're like the reverse of the universe. We like have 1,000 lots of winter failure versus one summer. I mean, don't get me wrong, we are the reverse of that, right? So therefore it shows that we take a lot of time. So if we collected a lot of resources when all of this shit was, shutting down, mastered how to survive through it, you've got a lot of capability to play around with. And assuming that it's going to take quite a bit of time, it's not really that long, worth of darkness.
Mm-hmm.
In that, it's looked at as destruction, is more on that end. It's got its time, but still, it's much more faster, it's more advanced. Fascinating. And then all of a sudden the stars become more advanced, and if you stare at it too long, you don't know which one is more advanced than the other. And you're in this dark time, but you've got all of these resources, and you know your pattern. You know how it is, right? Failure, for fuck's sake, failure. And if you time that just right, which I think you will, you'll have a massive breakthrough when it all starts waking up again, and then you're like, okay, start collecting again. And it comes again. You just do better each time round. It's like fucking Monopoly, but with resources, not money. Which kind of are resources, I suppose. But with the universe, you could build a whole new board game around that, couldn't you? But yeah, no, it's a funny thing, isn't it? Behavior, and when you are surrounded by a lot of capability and a lot of you can do it. How do you think that shapes the future? And do you think generations have been taught disbelief as opposed to believe? I mean, that's one thing with America is believe, isn't it? Believe in big, believe in dream, believe. That's a belief that's almost been, what, taught on the planet? And with that, what has come from it? Is shin, eh, mate? Fucking, whew, like a rocket. That might as well be symbolic as well. Fucking, tsh. It's a lot of belief, that, isn't it? Then it definitely generates an awful lot of, it feeds it. It starts to feed it after generation. Because you're surrounded by that belief. Oh, we already did it. Yeah. So what happens if we do this? I'm fucking down with you on that. Up, down, whatever. Fucking count me in. Because there's that sort of, well, they did it. We can do it. And each time it starts to grow. And then there's more being added to that archive, which is a very healthy way to believe, don't you think? I don't think it's possible. Make me a believer. All right, that's our motto. That's what we're here to do. You know, that's a sort of growing. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Now go futuristic with this. Wipe away the planet and everything else, which I think is going to drop away a lot of behavior from that. Should we go out? Can't, it's raining. Should we go here? It's just not great weather, is it? It's a bit cold. I'm going to stay. It's going to be a lot more. Yes, okay, sure, yeah, absolutely. Oh, I can't. I gotta go work here. That was a trimester that served a good purpose, and then it maneuvers into this, and people be like, you know what? Yes, I am. Are you up for that? No, not right now. I'm doing this. All right, sure. But I'm sure that when these ones have done their yesing for a bit into whatever project that may be to get it even conquered, these ones are ready. They sort of look at it and be like, all right, see this? All right, I see that. I'm going to raise you with this. I'm going to have my 2 pennies like this, and it did this. Next one's come in. Oh, there it is. Fresh perspective. A lot of people because they want to, not because they got to. And I wonder if that changes the difference there, if that's going to enhance it. I think it will. Do you? Because the more that grows, it then becomes sort of like a competition, maybe. Not a competition where everyone's sort of like, everyone gets a moment. And all of these things get learned. And then if you're a wise person, you won't be going, it's the past, fucking chuck it out. Well, this universe is apparently a cycle. Oh. Well, we evolved. Well, I don't know if we want to be playing the constantly evolving game. That seems very tiring, that. Make it, it works, perfect. What are you doing with all of these records? Well, we're keeping it. Why? Because assuming this bitch is going to recycle, you know, at this trimester, these were really good. At these trimesters, this was very... You know what? We might as well just call this a catalogue of all the things that worked. These things worked on pressurized planets about this big, that big, and this size. These work really well, which then evolved into these. Meaning that if we see another one of those come up, which I'm going to predict that we will, maybe it's all squares next time. Who knows? We can send this one on there. And then tweak it a little bit more, push its limits. Got you in a little solar system generator in you. I mean, that is power. Shit, eh, mate? Never worry about a bill again, or existing. Free to explore. Yeah, right. Gonna leave it here. So implosion, explosion, but diamonds. Diamonds. Do you think they're created from nature? Old bark, charred bark, and then pressurized.
From carbon, eh? Can be.
And if you try and go at it from any other process, you might not get diamond out because the ingredients are not the same. And then with that in mind, well, what other fun crystals are there? Oh, one more, just to finalize one. What do you think of pods, cooking pods?
Cooking pot.
Yeah, pods. Enough meat to do a hot pot. Fresh, in a very small packaging, very small amount of meat.
Yeah. What about?
Followed by a very small packet of vegetables. Enough to feed a family of 3 for one night only. All fresh, pull it out of a pod, cook it in one pot type process.
Yeah.
Start with the meat first, add in a little bit of water. That's all done, right? You know, you've already fried it to start with, yeah?
Yeah.
And then you want to add in a little bit of water. Why do you want to add the water? Because then you're going to add in the veg after that. And then a few more bits. Ooh, hot pot. And a little pot of gravy already knocked up. And then it becomes very cheap. As opposed to buying a large slab of meat and only using a little bit. And then you need a fridge and a freezer and everything else. And you need to keep all of that. Which can get pricey. This way it allows you to get around that.
Yeah.
And then this would all be the fresh range. Then what about the frozen pods? Exactly this.
Yeah.
But this stuff is frozen.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't take very long to make at all. You just grab the pot. What do I want? Meat. Okay, what particular meat? Chicken, diced, whatever it is. You're going to make a hot pot. Or you're going to make this, or you're going to make... These meals can build.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have sachets. Yeah. And you can also mix and match these pods in any way that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Double it, triple it, quarter it. But the price is value. As opposed to buying a whole massive slab of meat, you can get a little bit of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it can also teach people who don't know how to cook without ever needing to teach them how to cook. Mm-hmm. Step 1, this one.
Yeah.
Step 2, this bit. And you just build up a hot pot. I don't know. And if it gives you your 5 a day, one of your 5 a day, that can be quite a good thing. Plus, if it's priced good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And would you ever eat a dried version?
Yeah.
Yeah. And a spice pod.
Mm-hmm.
Where you just mix your pods up of different spices, whatever it may be. This one's Chinese spice. This one's chicken curry. This one's tandoori. Or mix your own. Add in a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. Saves it into a database of what you've made. Someone else can try it. Some people might like it. Mix all of those herbs up, because we don't get enough herbs, do we? Because most of us don't really know how to put them in.
Yeah, we don't know.
Fear that it might taste bad.
Yeah.
Until you find the unique. A little bit garlic, a little bit of this. Ooh, that's pretty good. Adult version, younger version. All of this built into a pod. You just go in and collect the whole. And it gives you a whole family meal for one night.
Mm-hmm.
No leftovers. The intent everyone is going to eat it. No storage. Just get it, bring it home, straight up cook it. Or a dried version. What about dried chicken? And you're going to hydrate it before you put it in, which is another alternate. Again, up to you to take it. Yeah. This lasts indefinitely. It's much more of a way that would be aimed towards a market of people who appreciate our ancestry. Do you know what? We don't actually have hunter-gatherer stew.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure that they're going to have all of it this way, but still, maybe some dried mushrooms, perhaps this, and this. And you can bring this, hydrate it, and get a meal. You know, sort of recipes like that. So dried, frozen, fresh. And then does that really give you opportunity? Nothing played around with it, just straight up as it is in a pod. How much do you reckon, ideally, that would cost? If sometimes we're buying a meal and it's meant to be for 2 people, you often got a lot left over. And what do you do with it? Well, okay, you can knock that up and put it in the freezer somewhere. But then what's the nutritional value from doing that? As opposed to eating it all at that healthy ratio every day. We no longer live in the time where we have to close up all the shops. Why? Christmas is coming. 2 weeks. Buy my hamper. Would you like a hamper? No, Morrison's like, you know what, we're open Christmas Day. And we might be open New Year's Day as well. Right, do you get what I mean? Tesco's and everything else, and Lidl and whatnot. So we're no longer sort of in that era anymore, are we? And I'm not sure many people know how to cook. And then therefore they're much more rather to grab the snackier foods, and which is kind of fascinating. But whereas that pod cooking allows you to buy individually rather than a whole packet. If you're not going to make do with the whole packet, it saves you making waste, yes?
Yeah.
If you're going to chuck it out at the end of the day, then that's a large amount of waste. But if it was broken down to what you needed in the supermarket, and there again, it doesn't have to take up a large part of a store anywhere, does it? It can just sort of trial it. And if it's all innocently done, people get to really mix and match what they want to have. Which I think is quite a good thing. Don't you? I think it kills a lot of birds with one stone. That's brutal. I like the new one. 2 vampires, 1 steak. We're going to get 3 in this one. Yeah, because you get to eat healthy, step by step of how to cook, how long for, and on that. It shaves down the time. A lot of time goes into prepping. If it's all one pot cooking action, which again is a bit more like a mirror imaging of hunter-gatherers. If you believe they had pots, I believe they had clay pots. I think they utilized clay. I think they had surrounded enough of that in riverbeds and building stuff together, as kids often do. You notice they play around with all sorts of shit if you don't tell them not to. And before you know it, some of this can bake in the sun and no longer break down in water afterwards. It's only a matter of time before they'll learn that. And then it can withstand heat. In fact, it can withstand quite a bit of heat. Now add some liquids into that and shape it slightly. You've already got. And if you've got cooking oven, bread oven, yeah, you've got pots. There's no way they were around that and didn't have the mental fortitude to build dish shape. What holds eggs? A nest. What holds liquids? A nest. But this one's made out of ceramics. Who knows? Whatever it may have been, I'm sure they would have conquered that very quickly in order to make pots. And also from wood. You can do it from wood. It's a pain in the ass, but it works. It's not enough to, depends how you do it. If you're going to build it with rocks, it's enough to keep the intensity of the flames away, but it's not enough to keep the heat out, and it penetrates into the rocks and then can come up into a wooden bowl that sits on there, and it heats at quite a nice but very slow pace, which is pretty good. And it doesn't have the diminishing of intensity of the flames because the rocks tend to take it and hold it and distribute it in quite a good way. So it seems to be more of a maintained heat. Yeah, so there's lots of ways to do that. So our ancestors definitely had this material, and I'm pretty sure they made use of it. And therefore oil from meat probably would have larded up. I'm pretty sure they would have utilized this stuff too. Only been a matter of time. So yeah, and then with that when it drips, certain meat drips onto wood, it will absorb into the wood, and this becomes easy fire lighting. Initially when you get a small flame and introduce that, and it will burn long and steady, almost like a wicking process. It's a fascinating sort of process there. So yeah, I believe they made pottery, and I also believe they understood grasses as well. Rhythmic breathing around a fire causes the flames to become very intense, and you need to coordinate it, as in groups would have done. What happens if we keep going? Things get very hot. This was beginning to glow. That began to change shape. And then put more fuel on it, someone at the right ratio, whilst the others are still blowing into. So yeah, then shaping, perhaps. Who knows? But whether they left it at bare minimal and were clinging to life, I don't think they were. I think they were thriving, in fact. I think that's how it led on to metal age, different ages. Stone and flint, it just was easy, wasn't it? Till you break a few teeth on some shards. I think that drives the need for more stable objects, doesn't it? because it can become a pain in the ass, especially having very bad teeth. And if you've been skinning anything or cutting anything using flint tools, you get little tiny fragments that end up in the meat. You take a bite, crunch down, and straight into the tooth, or at least the gums or anything else like that. And again, that's going to be quite a painful experience, and then it drives a demand onto something more stable. So metal, although in some circumstances it flakes, but it's very unlikely, not compared to flaking in flint versions. So again, yeah, you also learnt this about certain game animals. Yes. Although we've ensured that we've tried to take out all of the pieces, buckshot may still remain. Bloody, bloody, blah. Eat at caution. Biting down onto one of those puts. I don't think they're lead. Maybe they are. Who knows if they're still using lead pots, but probably not in that aspect. But still, you bite down onto a fletching of that. Oof. That causes you to change. Change. Yeah, and splinters and all sorts. So, yeah, I think they had balls. So therefore, an interesting variety of diet and the need to dry foods. How do they hydrate them? Leach them in the river? I'm not sure about that. This will require some sort of heat and a liquid. So if they were drying, they were sure as shit reintroducing heat back into these.
Yeah.
They were drying it as a way of refrigeration.
Mm-hmm.
And assuming that the Ice Age was dwindling out, things were getting hot.
Yeah.
Things are waking up, therefore they're learning very quickly that flies were probably quite a nuisance. Other life forms. I think during an Ice Age you don't see very many insects.
No.
Very rare. And I think that you don't notice many flies or bugs. Perhaps they haven't evolved yet, who knows? But even still, when all of this recedes, life changes into being quite a lovely thing, but also very problematic if it comes to flies and insects. They can get you a little bit crazy after a while, can't they? I'm not really sure about that, but still, So then this meant that there was a risk to food. They would begin to break it down very fast and eat into it, and therefore you had less. And it made you sick. So therefore this would have drove you to store food, dry it out, protect it. And fire is probably one of the fire and all of that keeps these things away. Masks the smell, plus it dries it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps you warm. So yeah, you can see how you can grow with that. Fascinating environment. But even still, moving on with all of that sort of stuff, if you can create a food based around most of that, how much more healthier do you think that is? And then we were seasonal at certain times of the year, eating certain different types of food, and therefore traveling with that. And not just one kind of food, a variety of food. Whatever it was, it looked the same, it was very similar. I wonder how many times that tricked them out, but still. I think that they were eating not just from one particular tree species in a woods. Life can't survive on those. You would need a variety. And as a result, each piece of it helped you in one way or another, especially layering in defenses or in nutrients. So, yeah, I think multi-variety. Yeah, and creating anything like that with enclosed gardens or anything else. Why have one species when you can have them all? Do you want a biome that can withstand one species? Or do you want to flex and say, it has got every single species known to humanity?
Mm-hmm.
And then keep some that are natural, mixed, and in their particular regions as much as you can, and this one's the artificial. The best of the fucking best of what life forms are capable of doing. But when enough of them, from history of hunter-gatherers till now, utilize all of their minds together to build something that is capable of giving every variety of food indefinitely. And then that becomes a weird sort of larder, doesn't it? Do you imagine that with all the different variations of fruit and berries. So no, I don't think we can sustain life only on one particular strain of food. If there are 1,000 kind of lettuces, then you need 1,000 kinds of lettuce. Which is kind of interesting. That would make a unique sandwich, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Snippet of all. Yeah, that's bizarre though, isn't it? But it's also very true. And then, yeah, what times of the seasons were we eating this when it was more bountiful? Is there a clock to that? So again, that becomes a strange sort of interval. What happens if I eat this at this time? Does it make me feel good? Or does it understand the environment more so to what we're eating? Does it prepare you for the environment? If everything that comes into our senses is operating in this environment, then everything we eat and comes into the body then must be structured around what is best for you during this particular time. And what is best for this particular time of the year? Well, something that's here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's coming out as an edible food in this particular time of the year. If I eat that, is it going to help me? It understands this very well. I'm assuming that you've been around longer, perhaps not evolved, but when we take it back far enough to your packets, those have been around long enough.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, all of that data that comes in, how does it change your behavior and change the way you are?
Mm-hmm.
So is there a difference between eating this at different times? And I believe that the body at different times, one particular strain is going to be more stronger and predominant than another. Everyone is going to have its hero moment. Each one's going to wear the crown at a different time and therefore appear as abundantly stronger than all the rest.
Yeah.
I think that if we look at nature that way.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, are you eating it all at the crown moments or eating one particular type and have to wait for that pickup? Interesting, isn't it? Really, for me, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
So yeah, different life forms, different this life, abundant, smaller, rarer than most. What's so rare? What is rare? Is it gold? Is it diamonds? Or is it life itself? Have I been reading the same science books you have? This is all an accident, maybe. Come on. But the thing more precious than anything is a metal or a mineral. Or men. There's a lot of M's in this, isn't there?
Yeah, it is.
When in actual fact, it's life. Not just one piece of that life, but all of it. Because when it's all said and done, and things begin to narrow down, well, that's the type of capability that you have then, doesn't it? And if you've narrowed it down to a sort of line, lineage, this, that, or the other, how are you going to operate? When something truly outside your comfort enters, what's going to happen then? You see, that's why it works with all. Someone in that will find that appealing, and someone will find it boring, and someone will find it scary, and some will lean in and find that something to investigate and worth the thrill of. It's in the numbers. Yeah, and then there's more data coming in, and then across the whole species, look over time, look at all of those different instruments that there are. Mayans, wow, that gets you thinking one way. Stonehenge, it gets you thinking in another way. Aztecs, well, that really gets you thinking. Could you imagine sewing all of these beliefs together, if you could do it? Take all of that from there, take some of the Mayans, take some of the Egyptians, take some of the Aztecs, bundle it all together, and what have you got? Well, common reality now. Fucking hell, that's interesting. Clocks, computer mechanisms, buildings, hierarchy. Wow, that's interesting. But even still, imagine this across a whole universe of different life forms. Look at all of that packets of information left to the past, huh? If no one viewed it, then no one saw it. If no one saw it, did it exist? And can it exist? Interesting, really, isn't it? That whole structure of reality that. And then existence is in memory, isn't it? Or the capability to remember and perceive memories or packets of data. That is existence. Have an ability to not, then does any of it exist? Fascinating, isn't it? So how many beings do you need to know or remember that it exists? To see it, to continue it, to know that it does exist. If everything else died around and you remembered it, then it existed because you remembered it. But if nothing existed, then you wouldn't remember it. Seems the whole lesson of the universe, right?
Okay.
Build memory, breaks memory. Builds memory, breaks memory. Did I exist? Let me see. Intelligent? That's why I made you. Oh, I see. Yeah, do you get it? I could make you to sort of answer a question. Maybe. Are you a dumbass? Do you mean you asking me this question? Do I build the memory and then I break the memory? Wow, that's fascinating. And then forget the memory? And then create new memory to see if... Never mind. That's a hell of a cycle. But it works. Cycles keep you locked in. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Okay, there you are.